I'm a woman, and I no longer want equality with men. Let's divide everything equally, 50-50, 50-50. I don't want that, because we're digging our own graves with this rhetoric.
They're digging their own graves with this rhetoric. I don't want equality. Look, an old rascal already talked about this, but let's comment here too. I want your like, your subscription, and your comment. If you're interested in sponsoring the channel, WhatsApp is right there on the screen. And also, if you're interested in scheduling a consultation with me, okay? On the same WhatsApp, okay? So let's watch the video of this girl who, yes, is an influencer with over 1 million followers. She's quite famous on the internet, okay? And who's bringing an opinion that certainly resonates with a discourse we've been saying here for many, many years, right? Especially Hakam, right? I was a content producer a while back, and I talked a lot about this issue, right? About how much they would have to do with sort of denying the very idea, the very concept of femimi, and so on, okay? So let's talk about this, okay? First, watch the video, of course, and then I'll come back with my observations. Let's go. I'm a
woman, and I no longer want equality with men. Let's divide everything equally, half, 50. I don't want that because we're digging our own graves with this speech. I don't know if you've ever stopped to think, but women nowadays have a triple shift. So, in addition to all the domestic obligations with the children, which end up being more of a woman's burden, yes, it doesn't matter that one will do 50%. He can't be 50% mental or 50% giving birth. Women also bear the burden of half the financial burden, half the work burden, half the burden of everything else. If we add it up, it actually ends up being 80% for women, because they have these other burdens that are also a full-time job. And it was beautiful. It was super necessary. We wouldn't even be able to have this conversation now if all this hadn't happened. And mind you, this isn't an anti-feminist speech. Feminism is what gives me the right to be here talking to you today. But obviously, we're not equal. Men don't menstruate, don't go through menopause, period, breastfeeding, etc. Telling me that we're going to do everything the same way is actually a huge injustice, because their cycle is 24 hours, ours is 28 days. Men have no idea what it's like to go to work all day, then clean a house and take care of a child on your first day of pregnancy. Equality is a huge injustice. What I want is equality, to be respected in our differences, to have a world that was also designed for women. And I don't know if you've noticed, but women are increasingly overwhelmed and stressed, marriages are being destroyed, women no longer want families, because who would want a family living under such an overload? Which creates serious social and economic problems, right? People not having children. I've already talked about this, but another point I haven't yet addressed is the family issue. Marriage is shaped by equality. In my opinion, it can't work. It might even work temporarily, until the woman gets there, is completely overwhelmed, stressed, feeling completely abandoned and alone. That's not the model of marriage I want for myself. So, at home, my fiancé and I have different roles. What's naturally easier for me, I do. What's naturally easier for him, he does. A very simple example. I love to beautify things. I love beautiful things. It comes completely naturally to me. So, I'm going to make a point of taking care of this entire part of our home, making our house a home. He's super concerned about our safety. He's very attentive and very quick. If there's a noise in the house, I'm never going to go and see what it is. He's the one who'll do that. And this is just one example. But each of us has their role. We don't all play the same role. So yes, I believe that men have their role and women have theirs, respecting that we're different. And you, what's your opinion on this? Comment here so we can talk. A little something. What's
my opinion on this? I'll share it here now. Well, the point is this, right? What she was saying throughout the video, it's that discourse that has an idea that's hard to deny, right? Gender roles and all that. But unfortunately, right, because of this same movement that she later talks about, right, she tries to blame it halfway, like, no, but, right, it's not that I'm against it, because it's thanks to it that I'm here talking, right? So, there's this concept, right, of an evil patriarchy that messed everything up, that didn't let them do absolutely anything and so on, and it's something that's very old, really old, right? But anyway, even her grandmother must have experienced something similar, right? But many women love to echo this discourse as if, right, men too, if suddenly they didn't have purchasing power or something like that, which is the majority of men, right, on the face of the earth, they had this whole discourse, this wonderful freedom. And no, that's not exactly what happened. Just like men, women, everyone, right, society as a whole, it evolved and gave a little more freedom here. A little more freedom to stick, okay? So it's important to reinforce this here as well. And then part of this discourse introduces the idea, for example, of a triple shift, right? I'd already heard of the double shift, but triple shift is new, right? Since it includes the fact that the woman, in addition to taking care of the house, started working and some other thing that I don't remember what, right? But anyway, there's that thing, I think she meant taking care of the house and the children, right? So, taking care of the house, taking care of the children, and working. I think that's what she meant by triple shift. I don't remember right now. But it's a discourse that, as I've already told you in another video, I even touched on this point, it doesn't really fit in today's world, because when we talk about women, right, the modern woman, she's a woman who isn't obligated to have children. She herself mentioned in the video that, oh, and we look at this and start rethinking and I don't know what, right, because it's not worth it and it's a right. I myself mentioned in a previous video that women's rights are their individual freedom to do whatever they want, whether they want to be a mother, whether they don't want to be a mother, whether they want to be a mother of 10 children, 2, 1, or none, right? However, it's also undeniable that many of these privileges, let's call them, oh, I'm not going to do this or I'm going to stop doing that, say a lot about a woman's role as a mother, okay? From the moment she chooses not to, I'll live a very similar life, with the same rights and such, right? As a man, she also has to have the same responsibilities, okay? Since the time, for example, of the vote itself, the question of if women vote, why wouldn't they then do mandatory registration has been much discussed. I think these aspects, all of them, without exception, should be reconsidered. Our society should rethink many of these benefits for women who aren't delivering their social factor. It doesn't mean that she stops being a woman. It doesn't mean, for example, that in simpler matters, like the care you take in a relationship, then, oh, well, there was a noise in the house, go check it out, I don't know what. That's much more a matter of an agreement between the two parties. So, the man feels good about playing this role, fine, let him do it. Oh, I feel good about taking care of the car, I feel good about taking care of the house's electrical system because I understand, I feel good about carrying the groceries because I'm stronger. I don't know, it's much more a matter of an agreement between the parties, as I said, and it's individual freedom in a way than something imposed. But when we stop to consider that society begins to deliver a series of benefits to women, simply because they are women, even if they don't, for example, take on the role of mother, then I also start to question myself. I start to question what equal rights and what equity are. I don't think there's any equity in these examples. I think it should be given to those who work hard, right? So, for example, if you're not going to give a benefit, like a military pension, to someone who was never in the military, then why should a woman, not being a mother, receive a benefit that's tied to a double shift or something like that, right? Which is the case, for example, with early retirement. I'll emphasize this again because it's hypocritical. It's a hypocrisy that, unfortunately, we maintain because it's a delicate matter to handle, because we know that if we talk about the issue, if politicians talk about it, they could lose votes from the feminist movement. That's the truth, okay? There's only this truth, there's nothing else. So, that's exactly why they started talking about digging their own graves by defending the idea of equality. Because the equality they don't want is in duties, okay? Equality just having benefits isn't even equality, right? Equality of rights. That's what they want. Equality, because it's easy to talk about. It's a topic they're unlikely to address, one where men, need this so-called equality, because they're at a disadvantage compared to women. They won't be able to do that, that kind of dialogue won't happen in our society. On the other hand, the dialogue about the difficulties of being a woman and everything else, because they exist. I don't deny that they exist, okay? There are positive and negative aspects to being a man, positive and negative aspects to being a woman, period, okay? That said, socially acceptable is the idea of talking about the negative aspects of women's lives, about how difficult it is for women to live in society because of this, and that, even if you can provide countless examples of negative aspects of men's lives. Sometimes it's even easier to make a list, right, of the negative aspects of being a man. That won't make any difference, because socially acceptable is to talk about how difficult a mother's life is, a woman's life, this or that. I think that at the very least, benefits should be delivered when the person actually delivers that issue, okay? So, for example, retire early, mom. Okay, you've been a mother throughout your life, that's it, fine. Okay, then you can understand it in part. I'm not even saying it's right, okay? No, I don't think it's very right, but at least you can understand it. And these women who chose not to be mothers, who are in the same career, being, competing for the same position as you, facing the same issues, because yes, they have the same rights, right, and I have nothing against that. But then, why? Because she has more rights in this case, right? That's what I think is wrong. I think we have to rethink this aspect, yes. Oh, I'm a woman and I don't want equality anymore. Fine, so we're going to take away equality, but we're also going to take away that equality from the good things, okay? I learned from my mother since I was a child, at least, right? There's no point in you wanting something, right? If you want to do something right, you have to do your homework too, right? It's a lot of wanting, a lot of wanting. I want everything, I want this, I want that. But when it's time to do my homework, they're not delivering. That's the truth. Okay, that's it. See boys. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. If you're interested in sponsoring the channel or scheduling a consultation, WhatsApp is right there on the screen. We're together, and see you next time.